Hi, is this the Kingdom Hall?
Yes, yes.
Oh, yeah, I just had a quick Bible question I was wondering if someone could help me with. Do you have time?
I do.
Awesome. Thanks. Well, these witnesses told me to read the website jw.org.
Okay.
And so, I mean, I love reading about the Bible and theology, and I just noticed how many times they use the word paradise.
Okay.
It was actually, I actually looked it up on there, and it's over 4,000 times. And
Good.
I checked in my King James. I looked it up in a concordance, and it's only given 3 times in the whole Bible. And I was just curious about the times that it is used in the Bible, paradise, the word. It's about heaven in the 3 instances that I found. I was just wondering.
In the King James, it was about heaven.
Exactly. Yeah.
The King James. Okay. Let me grab my Bible 1 second.
Oh, sure.
Okay. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
My name is Rohan.
Christine.
How you doing?
Good.
Okay. So, which scriptures, which ones in King James were you referring to?
Well, the only 3. One of them is Revelation 2:7.
Okay. I figured that one was in Revelation. Mm-hmm.
Which is about heaven. I think even the website views it that way. To him that conquers, I will grant to eat of the tree of life, which is in the paradise of God.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2 Corinthians 12:2-4, where Paul was caught up into heaven, the 3rd heaven.
So Paul, okay. So that one, that's the second one. So first one is in Revelation 7.
Mm-hmm.
And the second
2:7.
one is 2:7. And Corinthians?
Mm-hmm. 2 Corinthians 12:2-4. Did you ever read about that experience of Paul where he was caught up?
So we have an article interested on that particular.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. 2 Corinthians.
Mm-hmm. If you would just have read that, would you think it means heaven or paradise earth in 2 Corinthians 12?
So reading it, it is a little confusing because you mentioned 3rd heaven.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what is 3rd heaven? So if you would have to understand what the word, the number 3 represents.
What?
And you remember he was caught away 3 places. So 3 represents complete.
Okay. I'm just asking, though, if you had just read that. It doesn't say that there. I never heard about 3 being complete, but just if you were a simple person, just reading that, where would you think he was? Caught up. Does the New World Translation say caught away?
So.
Wait a minute. Wow. Wait a second. I'm just looking in their Bible now. Okay, 2 Corinthians 12. Okay, I'm looking at that in the New World. They change it to away. It says caught away. It's like they're changing the word so it doesn't say caught up. I'm going to check in the Greek word.
Which verse were you looking at?
2 Corinthians 12, where it was saying he was caught up. Oh, 12:4. Yeah. That's what a lot of scholars say that about the New World Translation that it's sectarian to tweak it, to promote their views. But I'm looking in an interlinear here to see what it says.
So the interlinear mentions that he was snatched away.
Yeah, it says snatched away in the Kingdom interlinear. But I think that's interesting because the King James, which you all used to publish and print, it says caught up.
Right. So the King James version, it was an existing Bible that we just utilized. So
right.
We didn't have the authority to publish and print it.
Yeah.
It was a standard that we just imitated or copied from someone that was already existing.
Uh-huh.
The reason for the New World Translation, for a number of reasons, the New World Translation was produced. It conforms more to a lot of the scripts that were found unearthed, such as the Dead Sea Scrolls and so forth. It restores God's name back into the Bible, which was found over 7,000 times in the original manuscripts. And it also helps you to appreciate or understand terminology and things that you understand now, terms that you understand now. So the brevity is remained. The message is remained.
Some people would really dispute that, like especially verses that are about the deity of Christ. They change and add words. And also the insertion of the word Jehovah into the New Testament. You had said there's manuscripts of that. There isn't any. There's no existing manuscript with Jehovah in the New Testament or even Yahweh.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah. So it's pretty sketchy to do that. But anyways, I looked and all the other translations say caught up, which I think is really interesting. And I'd really challenge you to just read it and see, pretend that you had never read it before. Would you think that's heaven or earth?
He refers to three of them. In verse 4, he says, who was caught away into paradise?
No, he's only referring to what is called the third heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But from the rest of it, tell me if you think it's earth or heaven, what he's talking about. He heard unutterable words which is not lawful for a man to speak. Just read the whole thing and pretend you didn't know the Watchtower view, okay? Because this is the view of, it's the historic view. Really, currently, it's the view of all commentators and scholars.
So let me ask you this. What is the view that you understand we hold?
Oh, that might be talking about earth. Now, I found one thing on 2 Corinthians 12 that says it means three different things, which that's definitely going beyond what is written there.
Okay, so again, what...
They're trying to they're desperately trying to find support that means earth. So...
what do you understand it to mean? Our view to mean?
Just heaven. Your view?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That they try to say this is heaven and earth. That's what I found when I looked it up.
Well, the scriptures does talk about a number of paradise. It talks about a spiritual paradise. It talks about an earthly paradise, and it talks about a heavenly paradise. Yeah,
and it's clearly heaven in this. Again, you can read the Bible and kind of just set that aside, sit down and read the whole chapter, and then think, what do you think he's talking about? Okay, without putting all that in or different meanings. He's talking about one particular meaning here in this experience that he had. Okay, so then there's also Luke 23, which says, Jesus said, you will be with me in paradise. And we know that Jesus is in heaven.
So what paradise was Jesus referring to?
Heaven. Because if you're on earth, you're not with him. You're not with Jesus if you're on earth, right?
Well, so let's look at other Bible scriptures. For
okay,
instance,
just a second. I want to talk about that. Okay, would you give me that paradise is only in the Bible 3 times?
Well, just to say, you'd have to
the word
read the whole Bible. You have to. So I'm not sure I would have to look that up whether the word exists only 3 times.
Yeah, it's true in the King James.
But the earth as being the place for man to live. So in the beginning, God created. In Genesis, he talks about he created a garden, and it was a paradisic garden, right? Genesis, no. So he does speak about paradise in Genesis. Yes or no?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so he speaks about paradise, and he speaks about the earth as being a garden, and the earth was a place that was created for man, correct?
Sure. It doesn't use the word paradise, though. But anyways, yeah.
So God's intent originally was for man to live on earth. Yes?
No.
Well, he did create, they mentioned that in that.
Now, many Christians believe in a restored and renewed paradise on earth, but as far as that, his main plan, his original plan, I think his original plan was, as it says in 2 Timothy 1:9 and Ephesians 1:4, to save sinners, to redeem sinners, and to bring them back into being reconciled with God and justified by faith. So maybe you could look at those.
But what was his original? If Adam and Eve never sinned and ate of the fruit, would this purpose be necessary?
Oh, he knew they were going to do that. That's not a good... It does. Here it says in 2 Timothy 1:9, "For God saved us and called us to live a holy life. He did this not because we deserved it, but because that was his plan before the beginning of time to show us his grace through Jesus Christ." So you see, his plan wasn't mainly a material thing. And I'm cool with paradise, earth, whatever, but this was his great plan that the whole New Testament talks about, saving sinners.
So the scriptures, but if you go to the account in Genesis.
Yeah.
Go to the account in Genesis.
I just gave you a scripture. What do you think about that? Don't you think before the beginning of time is pretty original?
No, it didn't say the beginning of time.
What?
It said, so what read the scripture again?
For God saved us. Here he is doing the saving. God saved us and called us to live. 2 Timothy 1:9. He called us to live a holy life. He did this not because we deserved it, but because that was his plan before the beginning of time to show us his grace through Jesus Christ. So I have to go with the scripture, what it says, with God's original plan, to save sinners.
So, in this scripture, you imply that before the beginning of time, God had purposed for mankind to be sinners, to fall into sin and die.
Well, it's not... It would be in his permissive will, and he did see that was going to happen. Obviously, if he was planning to redeem sinners, to show us his grace before the beginning of time, you're the one who needs to wrestle with that. I don't have a problem with it.
Well, there's a number of references in the Bible referring to the beginning of time or a time period. Now, it wasn't referring; it was referring to the beginning of or the starting of a certain period.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that in the publications. That's not how that sounds at all. That's just, again, they want to make it fit into their paradigm, their agenda. Yes, I'm familiar with how they twisted that.
Well, that's fine. And that's a beautiful thing about the scripture. Each one is entitled to how they interpret it.
Well, you're not. You're only entitled to agree with everything the Watchtower says at the moment. I saw quotes about that.
Well,
you could get in big trouble. Like, for example, let me just give you an example. You don't have that freedom, so that's a strange thing for you to say.
So that is kind of, think about that statement that you make, indicating that a person doesn't have the liberty.
That's true. In the Watchtower, you don't, because you could be shunned if you disagree with them. Even when they change something from one point of view to its total opposite, you all have to then affirm that view, whatever it is. And they've done that.
Well, that's what I say.
So that's not freedom. That's not freedom.
You misunderstand or totally.
No, I don't. I read that in the Watchtower, in the publications.
Okay, there's no publication that said that if I don't agree with the scriptures, I could be shunned.
Not if you just keep it in your mind.
even if I tell somebody.
Oh, really?
Okay. Nothing in our articles that say if I don't agree with.
Okay. Well, would you test it out for me? What is something you don't agree in? Could you go tell everybody tonight or whatever, and tell me how it goes?
But it's not a matter of what I'm telling you, but I do agree with it.
You do agree with everything they say currently.
Yeah.
Will you agree if they change it tomorrow, like about blood or the men of Sodom and Gomorrah, whether they are raised or aren't raised, which they went back and forth on like 10 times?
Well, they won't change the stand on blood. You know why?
They have changed it.
Because no, they have not.
Are you serious?
No.
You don't? Have you ever examined the history of that?
So the salmon taking blood,
Uh-huh.
participant in blood, based on the scriptures, has always remained the same.
Oh, my goodness. It's changed so many times. They used to not allow any fractions at all. Did you know that?
Oh, okay. Yeah, that I do know.
They used to not allow you to have pet food that had a blood product, and you should write all the companies and ask about it. They used to allow only plasma, and then they added some more fractions. They used to not allow hemophilia factor, and then they did. They used to actually allow blood.
But do you know that in each of those instances, it's a matter of conscience? So each individual has to choose.
No, it's no. You know what? I would like to send you information about their history of the blood doctrine, if you want to look at it.
I have all that information.
You really don't. You really don't. They're not very straightforward about that. They change things and they totally act like it's no big deal. Like, kids died from it, from not taking blood. They had articles about that in their Wake magazine.
So you believe it's okay to take blood?
Of course. The Bible is talking about eating blood, not a life-saving procedure. Blood is a connective tissue. It's not a food.
Okay. Well, there's many in pre-Bible, in Hebrew times, that did partake of blood in such a manner, eating the blood.
Yeah.
And there's various ways to take something. There's various ways to consume something.
No, you're not consuming it. It's like a tissue transplant. Blood is considered a tissue.
Well, something people are fed intravenously. And it's still
not with blood. Blood is not a food. It doesn't function as food.
Well, I mean, again, you could view it as you so view it.
Well, thank you. I know I can because I'm free. I'm not. I'm a Protestant. We can have different views. You don't come in and say I don't believe in Jesus. You know what I mean? But you can say I believe in the pre-tribulation rapture. I'm a millennial. I celebrate Christmas, I don't. See, that's freedom. We're not disfellowshipped for disbelieving in 1914 or whatever, But you don't have freedom.
You have to qualify whether the things that you believe or you address is in harmony with the scriptures.
Exactly.
That's the problem when many others don't do it. The decisions that they make is based on how I feel about it.
Okay. Yeah. But see, we don't believe scriptures are as clear on every single matter. That's why in those matters we have freedom, not on the essentials of the Christian faith. Then you wouldn't even want to be in your particular congregation if you deny the faith. I mean, that's a different thing. And you're right, that is a lot. That's a lot of freedom, and we are responsible to be like the Bereans and test all things according to Scripture.
And that is what we have done, and that is why we make the decision that we have made.
Yeah.
But like I said, that's the beautiful thing of what the way we were created. We all were created with free will.
Not really. What about kids who were baptized into the Watchtower, like when they were too young to actually really do the research, like 10 or 12? It would be very difficult for them to research the organization. Also, not being allowed other material.
Well, like I said, I have 2 kids. My children, they're in school. They're exposed to different theories of different philosophies and so forth. I relate clear to them what's written in the Bible, and they have a choice. They have a choice to make.
Yeah, some of my friends are shunned, and they're not even disfellowshipped. So it's actually not a choice. It's a horrific. It's caused like a lot of suicides too. If you look in the, if you look that up, Jehovah's Witnesses and suicides. That's one reason, the severe shunning. Just because you don't want to be a Jehovah's Witness. Many leave for conscience. They don't tell you that though. They want you to think the worst of them if they leave. There's no freedom whatsoever, especially if you get baptized when you're like 10. They've even commended some 8-year-olds in the yearbook lately to be baptized. One of your governing bodies suggested that if you don't get baptized, you shouldn't get your driver's license.
You are really familiar with a lot of our materials.
Oh yeah, it's astounding. Your materials are astounding. The history.
Were you ever associated with us?
No.
You are really well informed about it. I like the fact that you spend a lot of time delving in our material.
Yeah, so many witnesses encourage me to. Could I send you all their previous quotations on blood so you can actually see the changes, how devastating they've been to people?
No, I have all the changes. Believe it or not.
Oh, what are they?
I do have all the articles with it. I don't have them on me right now.
Well, you don't have the ones before 1950 also. And if you don't know what you're looking for, it's actually really hard to find.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a beautiful thing about the organization. As you were able to find articles from 1915, the transparency is clearly there.
The transparency of the Watchtower organization?
Didn't you just find articles?
Why aren't any of their cases about child sexual abuse on the website when they have so many about Catholics? That's not transparency. I hate to tell you that.
Well, I tell you one thing. First and foremost, if there's child sex abuse in our organization, it is dealt with accordingly. It's admitted to the law, but
that's their company line. Yeah.
The other difference with other religions, they hide or conceal or protect the perpetrator. Right.
Why? Well, that's not the question I asked. I asked why aren't the cases that they've lost, 35 million in Montana, now a 66 million class action lawsuit in Canada has just been decided that it will go forward, which means they have enough evidence from many people who got together. So why isn't that on the website when you have so many Catholic stories about child sexual abuse and the cases they have lost and payouts?
Let me ask you a question. The cases about these other religions that have sexual abuse, are they on their website or are they on secular?
Absolutely. Catholics talk about it all the time.
Is it on their own Catholic website?
Well, I didn't really check. I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. Yes, they all know about it. They all talk about it. I meet witnesses that don't even know about the Australia Royal Commission on Child Sexual Abuse, where governing body member Jeffrey Jackson testified. So how can you say that's transparency? That was a huge thing.
Testified, and many of us do know about it.
Oh, good. You actually saw it? Did you watch the video of him talking?
I know about it, trust you.
Okay. Do you know what he said when they asked him if they're the only channel God is using?
And he said, yeah, absolutely.
No, he didn't. You really got to see it.
What did he say when he said, oh, they're the only channel God is using?
He